Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand.
Welcome to Issues at Hand here on Church of Uganda Family TV. It's a pleasure having you following us through. Now, on 7th, every year, we celebrate the World Food Safety Day. And this year, we had this day on Saturday, and of course very many things come through, and our theme of course was food safety science in action. And today we want to derive more into this subject. Tedrin Austin Mkalazi is my name, and with us is Bernard Bwambale from Consent. Bernard, it's a pleasure having you this morning.
Thank you so much for hosting me again.
Yeah, we are delighted to have you. Now, greet our viewers before we get into our discussion, because I'm so passionate about this. That is why I started off.
Oh yeah, sure. Thank you so much for hosting us. My name is Bernard Bwambale, and I serve with the Global Consumer Center, or Consent. Consent is basically a consumer protection organization trying to make sure that the consumer is in charge of what they're actually consuming. So that is our core mandate. But also I coordinate activities of food safety in the country through the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah,
you're the right person to.
I think so.
We are talking about, and of course, we're talking about food safety and the World Food Safety Day. It's so funny that some people don't even know that this day exists. But also, even to those who know that it exists, we don't know why we should commemorate it, or why we should. Why we should consider it as a very important day. Yeah. So, can you give us just a background of this food safety day? Yeah.
Okay, so you realize that currently the World Health Organization informs us that we have 200 diseases and above that are actually coming through contaminated food. 200.
Wow.
So the diseases that you know, the ones you know, but we have over 200 diseases that are associated with consumption of contaminated food. So you see that already makes it a very big issue. Yeah. If 200 diseases are really associated with contaminated food, then it's a big issue. Secondly, you realize that people who die every single day because of eating contaminated food is another worrying figure. So you realize that, for instance, in Uganda, every year we register around about 1.3 million Ugandans who fall sick just because they have eaten contaminated food. 1.3 million Ugandans. So just imagine if you have 45 million and 1.3, for them they actually fall sick just because they have eaten. And they've just eaten wrong food. So then also when you look at other challenges, for instance, I'll talk about it a little bit later, the cancers we have, the stunted growth we have, all of those have an association with actually food safety. So in 2018, given the challenges associated with this complex issue, the UN, the United Nations came up with, no, guys, why don't we celebrate? Why don't we commemorate the World Food Safety Day, bringing every actor on board, making people understand why we need to discuss aspects of food safety. And so that was the basis of that. And so we started commemorating since 2018, making sure that during the course of commemoration, we are making sure that we reach out to the people, inform you about the issues, what is contaminating our food, what are the risks associated with eating contaminated food, and what is likely to happen when you continually eat contaminated food. So that is usually the genesis, and that is why we commemorate the World Food Safety Day.
Okay. Yeah. So have you registered any successes from 2018 up to this recently concluded one on Saturday?
Yeah, I think that we have quite a lot of milestones. You realize that now the way we have positioned food safety, it can be talked about by everybody everywhere. We've involved the media to make sure you understand the subject. We've made sure we go to the communities down there to spread the gospel of food safety. We've gone to the people who are handling food to reach out to them. So I think that since 2018, there's been a high-level campaign on food safety, assuring that people have the understanding of food safety, but also improving food safety issues. But of course, also in the world of science, a lot of technological advancements are happening around the area of science, rather around the area of food safety, just to try to improve the safety of the food. So yeah, a lot of milestones are happening, of course, irrespective of the gaps that we shall discuss as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now let us talk about the issue of food safety, especially in our country, because much as there have been efforts,
Yes.
but we still see there are a lot of gaps. And sometimes we don't differentiate between safe food and unsafe food as people. Sometimes we gauge, to some of us who are non-technical, we think that safe food is food that you get from this particular place, and then when you get it from this place, then it is not safe. We need to get that distinction.
Oh yeah, sure. So when you're discussing the aspect of food safety, I want to bring it in 4 things.
Okay.
So we need to think about, we have what we call food hazards. What contaminates the food actually. So we can have them. Let me focus on 3 of them. We have what we call physical hazards. Okay. Physical hazards, these are things that spoil the food, but you can see them. So for instance, someone serves you food and the food has hair. Have you ever seen kabalagala? Someone serves you kabalagala but has hair. So you look at the kabalagala, but there is a strip of hair. So you start wondering, where is the hair coming from? Did it come from the head, from the beard, from elsewhere? So there is a risk. So whenever you see hair, for instance, in the food, that is a food safety issue, because it means you may end up consuming someone's hair. You get it? Or you can have actually, you have food, but then you find sand. So they serve you kabalagala or bread or whatever, and then you find sand. Now just imagine you scoop a spoon of something and then you put it in your mouth, and then you start biting sand. Now that is a food safety challenge. Imagine a food, and then when they serve you beans, and then you just scoop and then you put in your mouth and then you bite a stone. So all those are food safety issues. Yeah, even rice. Now, if this is a young kid of 5 years, and then the kid puts in food with stones, there's a risk that actually that stone can crack off the teeth of a child, and the teeth goes off. Now, just imagine if the kid has very soft gums of the teeth, it can hurt the child, and you see children bleeding, and then you wonder, why is this child bleeding? So food safety shouldn't be looked at beyond the reasonable issues, but that is already a food safety challenge. You've seen people serving us food in restaurants, wherever, and then you find droppings of chicken. Yeah. In food. This is beans or groundnuts or whatever. And then on testing, you realize that actually there are droppings of birds. Now, that is a whole issue of food safety. We've seen in the country, I think one of the worst experiences we've had is when this lady bought, was it ice cream or something, and then she found a rat there. Milkshake, and then she found a rat there. That's a whole big food safety challenge. How did the rat enter into the milkshake? We've seen people giving us food, and then on testing the food, you actually find that they are beads. Yeah, beads. Now just imagine you take in a spoon of food and then you bite a bead. That can cause trouble to the mouth. Or if someone actually swallowed the bead, it can be a challenge inside there, and someone can even go for an operation. So those are what we call now the physical hazards, things in the food that spoil the food, but you can easily see them. Yeah, I've also seen people giving us food, and the food has feathers. Yeah, you find feathers in food, and you're like, okay, now how did these feathers come there? So that is one category that we can speak about, and then we have also another category. Let's talk about the chemical hazards. Chemical hazards. Now, these are basically you eat food, but inside the food there are chemicals. Just quick examples. If you go to most of our schools here, you would assume. I always say that we assume that those schools are being led by people who have gone to school. And these are guys with a master's in something, and guys have gone to school. But guess what? You find schools preserving beans with kerosene. Wow. Yes. You find schools preserving beans for our children, but they're putting paraffin to preserve the beans. And then you wonder, you're like, okay, but a school, you would assume that the head teacher, the deputy head teacher, and everybody there, these are scholars. But why on earth would you get paraffin or kerosene and put it in the beans? Now, there's always, of course, baseless reasons. They tell you, you see, when we put a drop of paraffin, the boys in the school, we are controlling their libido levels. The girls in the school, we are controlling their hysteria kind of emotions. All those things. But why would just imagine every day in a school, a child is taking 2 plates of beans at lunch and at dinner. Yeah. Now, imagine the amount of paraffin in each of those plates. And then this child is in school for 9 months in a year. So 9 months, every day you're taking 2 plates. So meaning that relatively every month, a child is taking in 62 or so plates, around about 60 plates of paraffin. And then so you just multiply that by the number of months. That is how bad it is. So that is one chemical thing. Paraffin is not supposed to be in the food. But why is it there? And when children come home, rather let us start with the parents. When we go for these PTA meetings, parents are focused on academics, on school fees. Why don't we raise issues around what our children are eating? No one talks about it. And we are busy saying, oh, why did you increase the school fees? Why isn't my child performing? But what is that child eating? Now you want...
Does the parent ensure food safety at home before they can complain about where they eat at school?
I mean ignorance. So we need to know these things. Ideally, if parents go for PTA meetings, if you have issues of safety first, then go to school fees. Because value for money. Why are you paying 2 million shillings for a child who's going to eat paraffin? You see, that is the context. So that is one example. But also we have heard and we have seen, we've written documents, we've written researches on people preserving food items using public health drugs. You must have heard that in Kampala here and elsewhere, people are using formaldehyde or formalin, which we use in the medical setting to actually preserve human dead bodies. And then someone is getting it and putting it in meat, putting it in milk, putting it in fish, putting it in chicken to preserve. Why on earth would you do that? You get
Probably
it?
it's cheaper.
So,
on market.
Well, I understand that, but you see, it is just because the laws don't work. Because, why do they even get the formalin from? Who is selling this formalin? So one time we visited one of the dairies where these guys, they were using formalin to treat milk. And then this guy was telling us, oh, guys, we know that is bad, but now I have 20,000 liters of milk and we've not had electricity for 4 days. So what do you want me to do? Should I throw away the milk? I have invested money. So
part of the money is a loan.
I mean, it's actually a loan. So the guy's like, if there is a solution, why don't I preserve this 20,000 liters and I don't make a loss? So you see that food safety is not just a one man's thing. It is our business, all of us. Because you see, when UMEME or is it UEDCL, if they are not able to provide electricity to the people who are in the private sector, they will do all sorts of things to preserve their money. So you see now, what is leading people to do that? For them, they're already relating it with electricity. So that is already a chemical, wrong chemical in the food of a human being. Now, you start complaining that the cancers are increasing. Why wouldn't the cancer increase? If everybody is consuming a dosage of paraffin, if a person is consuming a dosage of formalin, I mean, it's a whole mess. Let us talk about the tomatoes or vegetables on our market. You see, for the last couple of months, the Food Safety Coalition and Consent and other partners, we've been talking about highly hazardous pesticides molecules on our market. And government and, of course, the industry, they have been claiming that we are confusing consumers and what. Some things you don't even need to talk about them. All of us have gone to Kaleri. All of us have gone to Nakasero here. All of us have gone to those markets. And we've been able to see that our vegetables are really endowed with chemicals. You just see them on top. Now, if someone said that and you say they are alarmists, what do you mean? People are eating kachumbari every day. But on top of the tomatoes, we have seen mancozeb there. Mancozeb is a fungicide. Well, it is not supposed to be used in preservation, but that's what they are using. You think our leaders have not seen that? So if they have, what have they done? Civil society cannot do anything apart from raising awareness and capacity building. But government has the mandate to do that. You've seen how our women are spraying food. They go and spray, but they don't have any protection on them. They don't have any... And actually, most of them are not even aware of what they're actually doing. And so you find that most of these foods, we eat them with high levels of chemical compounds. So it's really something that is beyond what we just think about. It's real, a big thing when we talk about chemical contaminants. It's really real. You've also seen people, when you go to the eastern part of this country, you must have seen that people are drying food on tarmac roads.
And on iron sheets.
Rusted iron sheets, to be more specific. Now, every time tarmac is hit let us say on a sunny day, and you're traveling to, let's say you're going to Mbali, and you're in a taxi or a bus, you'll at a time X see the mirage, that tarmac kind of shining. So it means that there's a lot of heat. And so when it finds food on tarmac, you just imagine what happens. So the tarmac is actually melting and entering into human food. And when it enters into human food, for us, we come and eat. So you're basically eating cassava with tar. So why won't we fall sick? So these are some of the aspects. You've also heard about, let us talk about chicken a little bit. You've heard about chicken and our pigs, and people are giving them feed with the ARVs.
Yeah.
Now, what that means is that, okay, let us go back a little bit to medicine. So when you continually take in medicine and you're not sick, like many of you who take Panadol when you're not even sick, you want to grab a sleep and you take in, So what happens is that when your body starts receiving a particular tablet or a particular drug, and it starts getting used to it, now the day you fall sick, that drug cannot work. So because your body is used to it. So that is like resistance. So your body becomes resistant to that kind of treatment. But just imagine, you are consuming birds, you're consuming pork, you're consuming whatever, and these farmers have used ARV drugs. Are here to increase the size, they become big, they become healthy, they become all those sorts of things. And then people consume these drugs unknowingly through the birds, the whatever and whatever. And that's why you see someone gets HIV, put them on some line of treatment, and it doesn't work. And then they keep changing. 1 month on this therapy, the other day they give them another regimen, the other day they give. So people have developed resistance to these treatments. You've seen people cooking beans and mulokonyi here. Yeah. People using aspirin, people using Panadol, people using... I mean, who told us that those are ingredients in food? Those are medicines.
They make the beans cook faster.
Is it the only solution we have?
The cheapest.
What is the repercussion? Because, I mean, at the end of the day, what were our grandmothers using to cook meat? We also know that if, for instance, you got garlic and put it in food, if you got ginger and you put it in the food, very quickly. So why would you opt for paracetamol or aspirin when you have an option of ginger, which is actually food? So there is a whole mess of things when you talk about chemicals in food. So it is beyond the pesticides. It goes to public health drugs. It goes to all of those chemicals. Now look at the guys who work in the saloon. Have you ever seen women eating food in a saloon?
No.
Very surprising. A woman goes to the saloon to make hair. So because they take long hours there, she feels hungry, and they serve her food in the saloon. But there's this saloon woman who is spraying whatever they're spraying.
Well, this one is eating.
This one is consuming chindazi. But on the same head, someone is spraying. You see lack of seriousness just. So if you're opening your mouth in the saloon and you're eating and someone is spraying your head and the neighbor is being sprayed and the other person is being sprayed, what do you expect? We end up consuming these things. Go run quickly to the garage. You've seen these guys work in the garage. Yeah. Very surprising again. Their food is actually brought in the garage. These women who vend the food and they bring it to the garage. Now, you know what is happening there? These women bring the food, they serve it in the garage, and they leave the plates in the garage. They come and collect them later. Yeah. Now, have you ever gone to the restaurants when these guys are washing plates? The water is black. Yeah. So you wonder, water is colorless. But in those places, water is black. So what is not happening? Ideally, when you bring these plates, including the plastics, they start absorbing those, engine oil, whatever oil they're using there. And then you find a plate with some bit of oil. Yeah. And now this lady who is washing the plates, she gets those ones she got from Family TV here, those ones from the garage, those ones, and they put them in one washing place. And so they wash all of them together. So what is happening is that if this water is turning black, what is making it black is a question of interest. So all those are chemicals that people keep on taking on. We've also seen, not just seen, we have heard, we've documented these things. People using transformer oil in cooking.
Very common.
Can you imagine?
Very common.
That a human being is now susceptible to consuming oil of a transformer, which is a machine. Now you are predisposing it to a human being.
It's even sold openly in markets.
And why is that so? You know, the minister the other time, I think a minister or PS of energy, Minister of Energy, was clear. She found people selling jerrycans of transformer oil. And whenever we talked about the things, government guys usually tell us we are alarmists, we are causing noise, until she found it. And then she bought it and she's like, Jesus Christ, what is not happening? She found jerrycans of transformer oil being sold. And on investigating, she found actually that they are cooking using it. And for us, we had already reported it since 2019. We've been reporting it. But people say, these guys are alarmists and what. But until you see it. And opened on market, you find transformer oil. People are selling transformer oil, and the guys of Chikomando, the guys of Chapsi, what, they are getting it and they are using it to fry for us food. Now, just imagine you're eating chicken, which is supposed to be nutritious, but then the farmer put ARVs, the person cooking has put transformer oil, and the consumer is eating it from a garage. I mean, at the end of the day, what you'd think you're eating as food is actually not food. It is something else. Poison or something. So that is now chemical. All that is under the chemical contaminants. Yeah. And the last one is about biological contaminants. Now, those ones have life. Like you have food, and the food has bacteria, has virus, has fungus, so you'll find microorganisms in the food. Now, that one is so deadly as well. And most of the illnesses we have are actually associated with that. So people eat heavily contaminated food. Food with a lot of microorganisms, food with bacteria, food with virus, food with fungus, just because of the poor handling of the food. And I think when you look at that category of biologicals, it's really overwhelming. Because just imagine when you go on the street and you're going to buy your chapati, whatever you're buying, and this chapati has been in the open space from maybe 9 a.m. and you're buying it at around about 3 p.m. So the whole day it has just been exposed to the fumes, to the dust, to the whatever, and so there's a lot of microorganisms. The problem in this country is that we do not want to follow procedure, we don't want to follow standards, we don't want to follow policy, we don't want to follow regulations.
But do people know them?
I don't know. That is the role of now the government to inform people. For instance, we have a standard on street food. Can you imagine? We have a standard on street food. That if you are going to start the stall of chapati, whatever it is, you must have your food in a glass. So that even if the wind came, the glass shields. But how many of our vendors here have that? You find people with vinyewa, but just like this.
No, I think that the question is, do they know why they need the glass, or they think it is fashion? Because I personally think that people think that having glass is luxury and fashion.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think so. I think people just imagine that. Why would I even invest in glass?
Yeah, your place will become fancy if you have a glass, so you can do without.
Yeah, but it is a regulation. We're supposed to have the glass. And by the way, the standard is very clear. If you have a stall for those street stalls, you're supposed to be 2 people on the stall. That is the standard. 2. One is supposed to be doing the cookery. One is supposed to be handling money. That is the standard. Because you see, money contaminates food. Just imagine this guy of chapati. He gets a very dirty cloth. That cloth of theirs. Passes it around your chapati like this. Even when you're seeing, by the way. And then after passing it there, then you give him a 10K. Then he gets balance. Then he gives you the balance. Then he touches your chapati. He folds it for you. And
let's take a short commercial break. When we return, we are continuing with the conversation. Stick with us.
Issues at hand. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. This is Church of Uganda Family TV. Enriching lives. Regulated by the Uganda Communications Commission. Issues at hand.
Welcome back from the break. This is Issues at Hand, and we are looking at the science of food safety. With us is Bernard Bwambare from Consent, and before the break, we're actually looking at the biological factors.
Yeah.
And you had raised some, biological hazards,
Yeah.
and you had raised a table-shaking concern here
Yeah.
about the regulations that we think that people should be knowing. But anyway, it's funny that sometimes we assume they know.
Yeah.
But they don't, because for example, if I want to start a chapati stall, I don't think there is anywhere I should go to get these regulations, unlike other places, other businesses like a pharmacy or what.
Yeah.
So someone will just have their capital from PDM, go start up their I mean,
You see,
they don't even know why you need to, because someone thinks another person will come in to reduce on my profit.
You see, the problem is that in this country, we have a lot of challenges. We have all the good things we have ever thought about. But the problem, I think, comes to execution, but also sharing with people, you know? So for instance, let us get back to that point.
Yeah.
Anyone who has a stall, we would think they are informal sector, right?
Yeah.
But they are supposed to be registered. That is the law. Everybody who has a food store on the street is supposed to be registered.
By,
There's a whole authority, by the way. There's a whole authority. You've heard about commercial officers.
yes.
You've heard about health officers, the public health inspectors.
Yeah.
That is their mandate. They are supposed, actually, people who are dealing in food are supposed to be tested for their health every 6 months. It is mandatory. You cannot open, for instance, you cannot open a restaurant, whether it is formal or informal, when your inspector has not licensed it. It is supposed to be licensed. So when they license you, the assumption is you've done a medical test. That is mandatory. You have done a medical test. Your staff have been trained. Your staff have undergone a medical test. That is it. Even the street food vendors, that is how it's supposed to be. So when that happens, the city council allocates particular places where the vendors are supposed to have their stalls. That is well documented. And that is the process. So for me, when I hear leaders, guys are just starting stalls everywhere. Why? The law is there. The policy exists. The standards are there. So what is not happening?
Do the people know that they exist?
The policy makers know. Let us start there. Because the UNBS has come up with all this thing. The document is there, thorough. Everyone starting up a stall must be registered with the authority. Everyone starting up a food industry, whatever it is, they must be tested every 6 months for their health and whatever. But you must have, you've gone to those restaurants, everybody in the restaurant must be wearing closed shoes. That is how it is. Everybody in the restaurant must be covering the hair. That is it. And we have them around.
But we go to restaurants, funny enough, someone thinks that their hairstyle for that day is what attracts clients. So they shouldn't cover it.
Unfortunately. But what does the law say? Because hair is a contaminant.
Yeah.
Just like I started earlier. It is a contaminant. So if you start up a food kind of industry, you've gone to hotels. You've gone to Serena, you've gone to Africana. You see those guys coming to serve food and they're all dressed. Yeah. That is it. That is the policy. But the problem is in Uganda, everything just seems to be God for us all. So anyway, those are some of the issues. Yeah. You've seen the guys who are selling, for instance, the street vendors, but they are closer to a petrol station.
Yeah.
Why? Just a spark of fire coming from that store and enters the petrol station like this, the whole city is gone.
Yeah.
So why would our leaders even allow that to happen? The standard is there. The standard exists. It actually exists. But I don't know. Anyway.
There is a building that has a restaurant on top and a petrol station down.
So now you just imagine that kind of thing. What happens if sparks of fire leave the kitchen and they just have a sample drop to fuel. This city of ours, Kampala, can just be collapsed in a second. If just now this kind of thing, you have a petrol station here, another one here, another one here, and then you have a restaurant there. You have a chapati guy there. These are risks coming from the poor planning, management. I don't know those things. Anyway, let's go back to our science. Let's go back to our science. Let's go back to our science. So, as part of the biological contaminants, there is a particular thing that we need to discuss exhaustively. We just launched a report on aflatoxins last week. And it's about aflatoxins in Uganda. Aflatoxins are, maybe for our viewers, when you see bread and the bread has mold, you must have seen that. Now, we've seen people getting bread with mold and then he cuts off the other piece and then he eats. When you see mold, it is just a sign that there is a problem in the bread. Just like if you have malaria and you start having headache. So that is the same that happens. So when you start seeing food with mold, please run away from it. That is the request. Run away from it or throw it away. Discard it because it is not worth eating. Because the mold is basically showing you that something went wrong inside. There is a fungus that is actually living in the bread. So it can manifest just to show you that there's trouble. It shows you through mold on top. So the mold starts forming on top of the bread. It's the same to maize. It is the same to sorghum. It is the same to millet, even rice. It is the same to most of the staples, cassava, potatoes. The moment you see mold, it tells you that there is something that is going wrong inside. So there is either fungus, and that fungus is called Aspergillus flavus, which may not be necessary for our people, but that one is a very deadly mold. Currently, in Uganda, let me focus on our local context. That mold actually attacks most of our staple food. We're talking about maize, which we eat every day as posho. Our children in school, it's just a daily meal. Ground nuts. You'll remember the president coming up with some statement that is going to ban the trade in vinyewa. That is the genesis. So a lot of aflatoxins in our ground nuts. And then if you look at our cassava, you see cassava is supposed to be white, but many times you reach our places there and the cassava is like yellow or something else. So aflatoxins are those, they are toxic. The way you hear the word toxins. So they're like poison kind of compounds in the food, and more so in our staples. And what brings these molds? One is that the failure of our farmers and us in our households to dry food properly. Now, every time you're drying food, you've seen these guys who process maize. For them, because they have bought the maize, they will get the dry maize, mix it with the one which is not very dry. So the moisture content of what was dry increases. And the moment you have high moisture content in those foods, that mold will come and stay there. So keep your food as dry as possible. Now, what happens in our families is that someone buys a sack of 25 kilograms of posho. And then at the time of cooking, they keep getting a cup, which you've just used for drinking. Then you go and scoop with a cup. So meaning that even if the maize was dry, and for you are using a scooper, which is wet, you're actually increasing moisture content of this maize. And so at the end of the day, you find that mold starts forming in that maize. So what is the problem with this mold? One, research has shown us, a lot of research is available to indicate that aflatoxins are actually carcinogenic. Carcinogenic means the compounds that have the ability to cause cancer. Now, what is happening in Uganda? In Uganda, every year, we are registering 3,700 cases of cancer related with aflatoxins. 3,700 cases. Just go to Mulago there at the Cancer Institute, and those are statistics very available. 3,700 cases are known that are actually related to aflatoxins per year in Uganda. Now, the shocking news is our country can only manage between 17 to 20% of the total cases of cancer. So meaning that the 80% we cannot afford to manage them. So you have to either go abroad or die.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately. So we cannot afford then to allow aflatoxins to remain in our food. Because worse people get the cancers. Just imagine every year you have 3,700 every year. Now, earlier on, research was showing us that chronic exposure to aflatoxins could lead to liver cancer. Now, the new research has even gone beyond to say, but what about other types of cancers? What happens? Now, one truth is that the more you eat food that is highly contaminated with aflatoxins, they actually weaken your immune system. So we have what we call the immune suppression cancers. Now, those are cancers that come as a result of weakened immunity. You get it? So those ones, now they have been investigated thoroughly by the Cancer Institute and then the Cancer Association. The guys have found out amazing things. That actually, the cancer we're talking about is not only about liver cancer, but they have actually found out that all the immune suppression cancers are actually having an association as well with aflatoxins. Can you imagine? They also revealed that the cervical cancer we keep talking about in women, the chances are high in women who have been consuming food that is high in aflatoxins.
But the big question is, do people know that what they are consuming has aflatoxins or not?
The problem is that we have not done enough as a country to sensitize the masses. For instance, we are supposed to have agriculture extension workers. We are supposed to have nutritionists. We are supposed to be having food scientists busy in the community spreading this news. But where are they? We have less than 30
facilities.
We have less than 30 nutritionists employed by the government. If you look at the extension workers, the agriculture extension workers, currently, okay, the policy available says that it is one extension worker supposed to reach 500 farmers. Now, as we speak, we are talking about one extension worker working on 1,800 farmers. You get the difference? So how will this extension worker reach 1,800 people?
Talking about food safety and talking about this year's theme,
Yes.
Food safety, science in action,
Yes.
we realize that when you look at the chain and the trend of probably food safety, the science, we are talking about science in action,
Yes.
has also disappointed us somehow. Because, for example, when you talk about spraying, and that is, I think these are the chemical hazards that we're talking about. You realize that this is all brought about by science.
Yes.
Initially, our grandparents were using ash and those traditional ways
Yes.
to spray. And today, because of science, we're now seeing this. And then you're the very people telling us that science, these things that have come up with science are known to don't make our food safe.
Yes.
So what should someone do?
Ideally, science is supposed to improve life.
Okay.
Ideally. Science is supposed to give us options. Science is supposed to give us what works. And ideally, the science has done its best to provide us whatever works.
How?
So, for instance, the aflatoxin issue, scientists have come up with what they call AflaSafe. AflaSafe is a biosolution that has been done here by NARO, that when we apply it in our gardens, you can never see aflatoxins. They cannot even come anywhere closer. So what you do like kind of immunization. So you get the aflatoxins, make them dormant, make AflaSafe, so that when it meets the other aflatoxin, there's already improved immunity, so it cannot attack the food. That is science. The only unfortunate bit is that we can have our science and remain with it in the lab. You get it?
That's the point.
So while AflaSafe, for instance, has been produced now at NARO, we haven't put up infrastructure there to produce that the AflaSafe. But how many farmers have access to AflaSafe? So we need to scale up innovations. We need to scale up science that has been tested to work. That is one. Science can also bring in other things. Still about aflatoxins, there is something called ToxScrub. ToxScrub. It's a machine that can wash aflatoxins from the food. Like, you just get your maize, put it in that machine, then it will wash everything like aflatoxins. It will remove them. You get it? Now, the unfortunate bit is that we have only one machine in the country. So I'm trying to show you that the science is there. So ToxScrub is only in Soroti now. One machine like this. So someone will not leave Kasese and go to Soroti.
Exactly.
So what our request is, if you read that
and
report,
even if we are all to go to Soroti, How much time
I
do you
mean,
have to spend?
I mean, that's okay. What I'm trying to show you is that there is science and can work, but the level of innovations, rather the level of investment by government in this science seems to be a little bit weak. Currently, Naro has a machine that can test for over 100 different molecules. It can test for pesticide, for aflatoxins, for whatever, around about 100 of them at a go. But it's one. It's just one machine. And we even don't know the cost. So you see, the issue is the scientists are waking up every day to come up with innovations, come up with science. But how is government supporting to scale up this science? We have testing kits that when a farmer is in their garden, they should be able to test quickly whether my maize has aflatoxins or not, so that they can take it to the market when it's safe. But how many of them have access? I think currently we have about 5 labs. We have one lab right here at Digal. We have a Chemifa, which is a private lab. We have a lab at UNBS Mbarara, UNBS here. We have another at Naro. You see that there are just fewer labs, but how much can you test a sample? Very costly. Now, the farmer who's down there cannot have access to that kind of testing equipment, but they are the ones producing the grain. And unfortunately, you realize that grain of Uganda has been rejected on different international markets. Recently, when I talked about it, one of the politicians said, "You guys are just creating alarm. These are politics." So when he said so, we just brought the Traders Association last week to speak to us about how are they managing as traders the issue of aflatoxins. And the guy told us, first of all, I am just quoting him. You must have been at that launch. The guy said, "Guys, I want to take this opportunity to apologize to the country for giving you unsafe food, us as traders." That's where I started from. And then he went ahead to detail what that meant. One of the examples he gave us, he said, they got big, huge market in Nairobi who were ready to buy the maize from Uganda. And they collected 96 metric tons. 96 metric tons, because they had gotten huge market there. Put the maize together from farmers, from these small traders, from whatever, put the maize together. 96 tons. And they were very sure of the market because they were dealing with the Kenya Millers Association. Guaranteed. Now the conditions were two. We are going to buy all your maize as long as they are less than 10 parts per billion of aflatoxins. That is the standard. So they said anything low, we shall take. Anything high, certainly not. Second, the second condition was that they had to first come to get the sample before they can buy. So the guys came, and our associations here were very happy because the market was really good. The guys took samples from every bag, and they took to the laboratory to first test so that they can export. The gentleman told us that while the market was demanding for less than 10 parts per billion, their maize, the best sample, was 30 parts per billion. 30. So meaning that others were even beyond the 30. But the market demanded 10. And that is the policy, that is the standard for Uganda as well. 10 parts per billion. If the sample has 10 and below, we give it to the people. It can be consumed. Now, guess what is happening? The Kenyans, who had come with all the money, very good market, they rejected our what?
Amazing.
So how is that politics? You get my point. So we can lose income, we can lose money as a country, we can actually put down our economy if we don't deal with food safety. So if we already know that the aflatoxins are a big challenge and the solutions have been made by the scientists, why don't we scale them? Why don't we invest more in those things? Why don't we give it out to the farmers to actually use? So that is the concern there. Of course, science can also cause harm, as you know. So what happens is that, for instance, we know that the pests and diseases of crops are real because of the climate change and whatever. So the scientists have come up with solutions to actually, they've even come up with all the fertilizers that you can ever think about, and they are actually working. The only problem is that some of the molecules, after putting them on the market, they're supposed to be reviewed over time. So on reviewing these molecules, you find that this molecule is mutagenic, meaning that it can actually alter your DNA. So ideally, as soon as you observe that, it is supposed to be withdrawn. from the market. Others are carcinogenic, especially those ones are categorized as highly hazardous molecules. Now, when you realize that a molecule is carcinogenic, meaning it can cause cancer, it is supposed to be withdrawn. There are those molecules which are actually reproductive toxicants, meaning that they can actually affect reproduction. So when you observe that, we are supposed to remove them from the market. Others are actually endocrine disruptors, meaning that they can actually disrupt your system of the body that makes the hormones. Can you imagine? So as soon as we observe that, scientists are supposed to withdraw those chemicals. The list goes on and on. Others are, of course, are toxic to bees. Others are toxic to aquatic life, etc. So they're supposed to be withdrawn. It's very unfortunate that in this mighty country of ours, our leaders have refused, no, not refused, they have not taken them off the market. We still have them. Meaning that the consumers, the farmers, and whoever is using highly hazardous still stands the risks that I've just talked about.
So what can we do in the remaining minutes to ensure food safety?
First of all, everybody must take it as a responsibility. Me, the consumer, I must know that I must eat safe food. So when I'm going to the market, I cannot buy something that I'm even visibly seeing that is not safe. It starts with me, the consumer, because you determine the market. When we stop demanding for dirty food, I'm telling you, those guys will improve and they give us safer food. That is one. Number two, people's capacity have to be built. Let me give you an example. You know that every meat we eat is supposed to be inspected.
Yeah.
And so it is supposed to be stamped by the inspector to show that this meat, we tested it and it is. But you know what is happening? The stamps that are supposed to drop out, and then these guys will slot and keep stamping. I mean, so the trust keeps on dying away. So how do we ensure that government actually executes this mandate to the latter? So the issue of enforcement, there are so many good laws, very interesting policies, very good standards in this country. But the enforcement isn't there. And why isn't the enforcement happening? Because the technical persons are fewer. So they cannot be everywhere. UNBS cannot be everywhere because of the staffing gaps. So we need to, first of all, ensure that the policies we have are executed, have the technical guys recruited to do this work, create awareness, build the capacity, and make sure that all consumers, wherever they are, all people handling food, understand the subject of food safety. If we don't do that, we're actually wasting energy. Okay. If the consumer doesn't even know what to do, okay, now you guys, okay, we have understood this thing, but the truth is, I bring this vehicle, I drive this vehicle in the night so that I reach Kampala very early, and I'm carrying vegetables. Now I have boiled on the vegetables. And I mean, it's a whole thing. It's crazy. So we need to really take personal responsibility, ensuring that you know the Bible says love one another. If you're a food handler, just imagine that you're the one going to eat this food. As I've always told you these scenarios in the last maybe few minutes. Last Christmas, you saw how people consumed in Hoima. People consumed the milk, is it yogurt or something, and they fell ill and they rushed them to the hospital. Now, while we're investigating that case, it was very interesting. We found that there's a particular woman who makes yogurt, but her children can never eat that yogurt. So she supplies it to another lady who also makes ice cream, but also her children cannot eat ice cream. So we're like, why don't your children eat this? Hi, that you guys, the process of making this thing, I really don't feel like I can give it to my children. But this yogurt woman gives the yogurt to the ice cream woman, and the ice cream woman gives ice cream to this yogurt guy. So you see how it moves. So for you, your children don't eat your product. For you, your children don't eat your product, but we shall exchange it. So your children eat my yogurt, which is not safe, and my children will eat your ice cream. So if we are thinking about it in that way, then we would have proper, I don't know, we would have a system that makes sense. So it's all about personal responsibility as consumers. What are we giving to people? But are we also learning? Let us keep learning. But when you learn, let us go and practice. When you practice, make sure your children also understand the thing. So at the end of the day, when all of us are aware, all of us know, all of us have learned, all of us are practicing, then the food system will be the best. We shall not have these diseases. We shall not even suffer from malnutrition. We shall not have disease. The burden will be very minimal. People will be productive. The country will go to another level. The productivity will be massive. The country will not make any losses from the rejects of trade. So I think that is all we need to do. And when we do that, perfect. We shall be good to go.
Thank you so much, Bernard. And I think from this discussion, more awareness should be now taken to the consumers, because we realize the other levels might have failed us. Now, we focus on awareness, especially to you, the consumer. You and I are the consumers. If we are aware of what is safe and what is not safe, then, of course, the others will have no option but to do the right thing. Thanks so much for watching Issues at Hand this morning. Edwin Austin Mukalazi is my name. I've worked with Liz and Esther. We wish you a blessed morning.
Issues at Hand